Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Well, it's been almost a whole year since I had to talk about anything going on in Olympia, Washington. The problem is we are just about 1 month away from the 2023 legislative session. And those on the gun-grabbing left, well, they've been talking a really good game. They feel rather emboldened by some of the success they had last year. And trust me, my friends, when I say this, they are really gunning for your Second Amendment rights coming this legislative session. So today we're going to have to spend a few very troubling minutes and talk about, if you thought last year's legislative session was rough, you haven't seen anything yet. Okay, before we get going down the road we are going down, proud to announce that this video is being brought to you by Securite Gun Club. That's right, Washington's nicest indoor shooting facility is found right here in Woodinville, Washington. Now listen, I know you guys hear me bragging about the facility all the time, and it is fantastic. And you hear me bragging about the staff they got over there, and they are fantastic. And yes, you also hear me bragging about the training over there, because I do believe that is the one thing that sets security apart from everybody else. But this month, well, I want to brag about the toy drive that they have going on for the Forgotten Children's Fund. So right now, between now and December 11th, you can go down there anytime during normal business hours, which is 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. They are only closed on Monday. And you can drop a toy off for the kids, or if you just want to make a donation to the Forgotten Children's Fund, you can stop off, visit any one of the totally awesome staff members there at Securite Gun Club, and they will get you taken care of. So once again, that is a toy drive for the Forgotten Children's Fund taking place now, between now and December 11th. Down at Securite Gun Club, located right here. Listen, if you want more information, visit them at securitygunclub.com. That is security with an E. That is not a misprint. securitygunclub.com. Okay, so I hope we're all beginning to circle this date on our calendar, which is January 9th, 2023, because that is when your Washington State Legislature will be going back into session, hard at work trying to come up with new and creative ways to, of course, strip you, the lawful and responsible gun owner, of your Second Amendment rights. Now, we don't necessarily need to do a replay of last year's legislative session because it is kind of like a replay of a horror film, but we do remember that we had Senate Bill 5078, our standard capacity magazine ban. We had House Bill 1630, which created a whole new litany of new areas that we can no longer carry firearms, and we had House Bill 1705, major legislative changes as it relates to untraceable firearms. But not to be outdone by last year's legislative session, no, we are beginning to hear the words of the Democrats, and they are rather emboldened. Now, despite the fact that the entire gun-grabbing left got a massive smackdown this summer in New York Pistol and Rifle Association v. Bruin, we are beginning to see many of these very blue states, rather sore losers, begin to double and triple down on these policies, despite the fact that they know they're in violation of the rule of law as announced by the United States Supreme Court. It started with New York State. Right after New York State got smacked down in Bruin, they came out with the Concealed Carry Improvement Act of 2022, which is actually more restrictive and more onerous than the act that the Supreme Court struck down once before. Now, of course, not to be outdone by them, New Jersey had to come up with Assembly 4769, which at the time was one of the crappiest pieces of gun control legislation I had ever laid eyes on, until the good folks at Oregon basically said, hey, hold my beer, check this out, Oregon Ballot Measure 114, okay? That is actually set to go into effect now on December 8th. And then we recently did this video also about Illinois, who is trying to propose basically an Illinois version of House Resolution 1808, an assault weapons ban. What do the good folks in Olympia have planned for you this year? Well, I think there are two things, and I think you need to be very alarmed about both of them. Number one, yes, they are going to push for an assault weapons ban. Now, I know some of you are crapping yourself right now. God damn it, don't call them assault weapons. That is how they are going to label it, okay? What do I really mean? A ban on semi-automatic rifles. Do I believe that there will be a massive push for that? Yes, I do. Do I believe that there are the votes necessary to do that? Yes, I do. Do I believe that that could ultimately pass constitutional muster? No, I don't. But why would the Attorney General ever let the Constitution get in the way of his political goals? Now, the way we're beginning to see these AR bans, is primarily if we take a look at the example here in Illinois, is what the state does is they basically go into RCW 9.41.010. They would create a new definition for assault weapons, and then they would basically describe most modern firearms, you know, the kinds that you guys all have in your homes for hunting, recreational purposes, self-defense purposes, and they would basically list all the components on any of those firearms and say if it has any of these components, it is now an assault weapon. And so in some of these jurisdictions, we're seeing very typical handguns, Glock 19, Smith & Wesson shields, things such as that. Very common firearms used every day for self-defense. They are now being labeled as assault weapons. And then what, of course, does the state do? Well, it then makes the possession, use, carrying, sale, distribution of any of these assault weapons unlawful. So let us not forget that just the last two legislative sessions, there was Senate Bill 5217. Now, it was a bill that I expected to pick up a lot more steam. However, the legislature ended up spending most of its time on other ways to disarm you and violate your constitutional rights, primarily through magazine restrictions. But 5217 was a bill that has kicked around in Olympia already for a couple years, and I believe will rear its ugly head, likely with a different number this time. But yes, do not kid yourself. The Democrats are, in fact, moving for an assault weapons ban. Now, it's not just me that believes this, okay? Why do I think this? Well, I'm actually taking words of them themselves. Senate Majority Leader Andy Billings, a Democrat out of Spokane, while interviewed by Axios last week, always a very middle-of-the-road moderate news organization, was quoted as saying, "The assault weapon ban is one of several gun safety measures that my caucus considers a priority." But he is not alone, because let us also remember what State Representative Liz Berry had to say to Como Television. "In the next session, I will be working to fight the issue and to push for safety measures that include a ban on assault weapons, 10-day waiting periods, and training requirements for all firearm purchase permits to buy firearms, and civil liability for gun dealers and manufacturers were also among the issues that I will be discussing. Lives are at stake. We will do everything we can to pass common sense gun measures at the state level, but we should also allow local municipalities and cities to do more to keep their citizens safe. What we have done is tied their hands by not allowing them to do that." And so you begin to see the three legislative things that I believe we need to be worried about this come legislative session. That is, number one, will there be a push for an assault weapons ban? You better believe it. Number two, is there going to be a push for a pre-purchase licensing requirement similar to what Oregon Ballot Measure 114 has just subjected all the citizens of Oregon to? Yes, there will. Basically, what the state of Washington is going to want you to do is go to the state and get the state's permission before you then go exercise a constitutional right. I don't know, it'd be like having to, take a religious litmus test before you get to decide what church you go to on Sunday. Or you have to take a political litmus test and demonstrate your proficiency and that you're not an idiot in the ballot box before we allow you to vote. But I digress. So, we got the AR ban. We got this huge push for pre-purchase licensing. And then the last thing is the abolishment of state preemption under RCW 9.41.290, which is huge because if you abolish state preemption and you make a little road trip from Seattle to Spokane, as you go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, county to county, political climate to political climate, the gun laws will change and you could ultimately go from being legal to illegal, lawful to unlawful, depending on where you were in the road trip. That is the whole purpose of state preemption laws. Can you imagine the disaster you create if you allow the city of Seattle to create its own gun laws? So again, we're going back into session on January 9th. There's going to be a lot of things coming out between now and then, and certainly we're going to keep our ear to the ground and keep listening for rumors about what may be coming out of Olympia. We will, like we did last year, keep you posted throughout the entire gut-wrenching process that will be the 2023 legislative session. Listen, in the meantime, if you have any questions about this or anything else related to your Second Amendment rights, remember, you can always contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or, of course, you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, Part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Laws, to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.